Welcome to Our Highest Work, a podcast where we are gathering and sharing the best ideas for a spiritually based business and life success. My name is George Cow, and today I have a special guest with me. Brandon Peele has been a longtime friend of mine. We've actually even been to Burning Man together a couple years ago, and it's just a lot of fun to have him here with me now because he's been coaching people about the topic of purpose, life purpose, their purpose, for a couple years, but now he's really formalizing this coaching practice, and he has written the wonderful guide called the Purpose Activation Blueprint. And so I hope if you are either watching this or listening to this, you've had a chance to download it. I will be sure to put the link in the episode notes page so that you can download it if you haven't already done so. And Brandon's going to talk us through the process. I'm going to ask him questions. If anyone who happens to be watching this live can also post questions. And with that, I just want to say that Brandon is also co-teaching a course called Man on Purpose. Is that right, Brandon?
That's correct.
Yeah, Man on Purpose. And but other than that, he's just a great guy to talk to about life purpose, career purpose. I just invite you to reach out to him if you're looking for a coach for purpose. So, Brandon, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you, George. It's great to be here.
Yeah. So I actually went through the first step of the blueprint myself. I really liked the exercise. Came up with a nice purpose statement for myself. And but I guess I'll turn it over to you, and you can walk us through it however you want to, and I will be peppering you with questions along the way. So
yeah, that sounds great, George. That sounds great. So it's great to be here, and it's obviously awesome to talk about purpose. It's one of my favorite subjects on the planet because I do believe it is one of these panaceas, if you will. It really does supercharge every area of our lives. Specifically, like over the last, I'd say 3 or 4 years, I've amassed a trove of research, what I call the science of purpose. And it correlates living your life's purpose with every element of the good life. So it's correlated with a longer life, living up to 7 years longer, a healthy heart, a healthy mind, better relationships, more fulfilling and profitable careers, a more just society, more sustainable economy. It is, I believe we're at the cusp of a purpose revolution. And so this is something I believe in. That's one of the reasons that Chris Kyle, my co-teacher on this course, and I decided to give away this free ebook because we want everyone to experience it. I mean, it's kind of like the greatest gift you could possibly give to yourself is to figure out why you're here and to start to enjoy the benefits, to have a great career, great relationships, great health.
Yeah. So, can I ask you something? Let me ask you a little bit more about, let's touch on the relationship and the health piece of it. How does purpose benefit, what has the sort of science shown about how purpose benefits people's relationships?
Yeah, so the primary benefit is that once you know your purpose, you're not like this kind of unmoored ship just kind of floating in the sea next to another ship, your partner. You actually know exactly where you're headed. You know what you care about, you know your values, you know your boundaries. And that's really like kind of the key piece. So once you know who you are, you're able to set boundaries and say, like, actually, my most important love relationship is myself. Like, I know my purpose, I know what I'm willing to do and what I'm not willing to do. And so that allows us to engage with our partners, with our lovers, from this place of like kind of deep self-love and reverence, and saying, I want to create a life with you, but not under any conditions, under the conditions that work for me and that work for you. So it really allows two people to come together from this very solid, purpose-driven, kind of self-aware place of self-love. So as people form relationships, they can, they're just much more solid. It's not about kind of appeasing the other person or resenting the other person. It's about having an open, honest dialogue about who you are as individuals and who you are as a couple.
Nice.
Yeah.
And how does purpose benefit our physical health?
Oh, that's one of my favorite questions. So the hypothesis, and there's a number of studies out there that look at because it's linked to decrease in coronary heart disease, decrease in stroke, decrease in depression. What's the other one? Yeah, there's another one out there that has to do with the mind, but the general theory is that cortisol, this kind of stress hormone that we experience when we're when we're out of alignment.
Mm.
So when we're the person who we know ourselves to be and the person who we show up are two different things. Our bodies undergo stress. And so the idea is that the stress hormone ages our cell structure, ages our tissues and our vital organs. And so when we commit to a life of purpose, it's like there's this thread that runs through every area of our life that gives the whole thing meaning. So we're able to endure hardships. There's a great Nietzsche quote. If a man knows his why, he's able to endure any, what or how. And so if you know why it is that you're committed to doing, say, moving a mound of dirt from one area to another, it's not like, oh, this damn mound of dirt. It's like, oh yeah, I'm building a garden. This is cool. I know my why. And so the idea is like when you know your why of your whole life, of your career, of your relationships, your body is not being flooded with these these stress hormones, this adrenaline, cortisol, these things that are just like eating away at your tissue and prematurely aging you, and then eventually leading to all kinds of serious ailments that will take you out.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's great. That's good to understand, because it's been shown. I mean, I think it's hopefully mainstream knowledge that purpose certainly helps with your emotional health. And I think people, it's been known that when people retire and they don't feel the sense of purpose from their work anymore, right? They deteriorate rapidly. So I think purpose is for every age.
Totally.
I think especially, I mean, yes, young people are seeking that purpose, and they have the strive for it, but it's perhaps even more important for people who are older, right?
Yes, definitely. Actually, I just finished a beautiful book by Richard Leader, who is just an icon in the world of purpose, and he authored a study with MetLife and explored purpose and aging, and wanted to see what are the differences in how people age if they have purpose. And he basically found the exact same thing you're talking about. If you retire without knowing who you are, your life purpose, you basically die really quickly. But if you retire and you do know who you are, they found that essentially when you have purpose, it yields a 42% increase in the experience of contentment, a 47% increase in the experience of abundance,
Wow.
A 31% increase in the experience of feeling love. So there's like purpose is, like I said, I wasn't lying when I was saying it's a panacea. It really does empower every area of life, career, health, and relationships.
Yeah, and I think it makes the life a lot more fun, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like you're playing a big game. It's not like in this tiny area. It's like with your whole life. You get to play this super big game.
That's awesome. Before we go on, I just want to mention real quick, those who are here live, please feel free to comment below the video. Some of you are watching this on YouTube. Some of you are watching this on the Facebook page directly. Please comment below and let me know that you're here. Any questions you have about purpose, let us know, and I'd be happy, as time allows, to bring those questions on for Brandon to answer. And I just a couple of comments already from Karen and Laura. They're both saying that they're here and listening in, so thank you so much. So okay, so one question I have, and maybe this is going into the blueprint already, is what is purpose? Now, I know you can have so many. There's actually one of the questions that I ask all the guests on this podcast, whenever I remember to do so, is what is their definition of their highest work? And so I feel like with purpose, there's as many definitions as there are people, maybe, or people who are interested in this. But how are you defining purpose, and why do you define it in that way?
Yeah, I think that's is the most important question. Like, what are we actually talking about today?
Yeah.
So the way I hold it, and this is a definition that Chris Kyle, my co-teacher on this course and co-author of this document of this book, a definition that we settled on, one that kind of took into account the latest psychological research,
Hmm.
took into account a lot of our wisdom traditions around this idea of dharma or calling or purpose or God self. And the idea is that purpose is very unique. It's not just about being a good person. It's not about being ethical. Although generally people who have purpose are incredibly ethical because they know who they are. They're at the deepest level. But being on purpose, and this is how we define it, is the act of giving my authentic self, so my true essence, along with my gifts and my talents to the world in service of something bigger than myself. So I'll unpack those a little bit.
Yeah.
So the way I think about it, and again, I think most purpose frameworks or most purpose coaches and most purpose authors will agree that they generally have these kind of three components: this idea of essence, these qualities of who we are, along with this more active element. So our gifts and our talents, like doing things that feel alive, that bring us alive, that make us feel united, that make us feel like we're contributing both to ourselves, but potentially to other people too. So it's an active thing. It's not just, I know my purpose and that it's this written statement that I look at once a day. No, it's actually moving it into the world. So there's this very active component about choosing the types of activities that feel aligned with who we are.
Mm.
And then the last piece is in service of something bigger than myself. So that a short word for that is mission. So it's where you both understand the world as it is, which is a significant task. So to be on purpose, you can't just be ignoring what is going on in the world. You can't just stick your fingers in your ears and go like, oh, okay, I'm not going to pay attention to how terrible the Middle East is right now, or how terrible climate change is. Like, you actually have to know what is going on in the world, and the reason you do that is so that you can see something that is new or different. So you hold a vision for the world that is better or more whole or more authentic. So the idea is that you combine who you are, your qualities, with the things that you love to do towards a goal, towards a vision of the world that is larger than yourself and more, a more generative, holistic expression of the world.
That's awesome. Wow, what a great definition. And for those who are able to see the video, I have on screen. And Brandon, can you see this? It's showing up, yeah. And those who are, by the way, those who are here, I'm just gonna ask you whenever you can to just let me know in the comments. Yep, I'm seeing it, or how's it going so far? So you should be able to see on the screen the little 3-part circle gear, actually, that
Mm-hmm.
that Brandon's been talking about: essence, gifts, and mission. And I
Mm-hmm.
really like that because it doesn't leave anything out.
Mm.
Purpose isn't just about. A lot of people think purpose is just about business or career,
Mm.
but it's more than that. Here you're bringing in the larger mission of our life. You're
Mm-hmm.
bringing in also our, I guess, personality, you might say, or core
Mm-hmm.
personality, right? How
Definitely.
does essence, how is essence related to personality?
Mm. So um, that's a great question. So the way we hold essence and personality tends to have a deeper root in the study of psychology. We can talk about that a little bit, but the way we hold essence is that these are qualities that you naturally and effortlessly express.
Mm,
So you don't have to. This isn't about you trying to be creative. This is about you know the like kind of the core kind of question or core litmus test is like, how do other people describe you when you're just kind of being yourself?
hmm
So for me, they might say, oh, he's provocative, or he's kind, or he's introspective. For you, they might, I'm just projecting onto you based on what I know of you. They might say, caring, supporting, enthusiastic, inspiring. And so it's just kind of like how other people would describe you. And
Mm.
ultimately it's how you describe yourself, but oftentimes other people have a better, are better able to articulate your essence.
Mm.
So personality, now this is, again, we're getting into more psychologically complex waters here, but personality generally has to do with your ego structure.
Mm.
So it's like all the ways that you became who you are,
Mm.
including, faults, shadow, triggers.
Mm.
It's not just about kind of the great things about you. It's kind of like your life story in a lot of
Mm.
ways. Like
Mhm.
what happened to make you the way you were. And
Mm.
generally that comes down to like a core wound.
Mm.
Like, you know, for example, I've got a core wound around not being worthy of my father's love, which is of
Mm.
course not true. I am, and he loves me and all that kind of stuff. But that was a wound I got as a child, and so I
Mm.
developed this whole personality structure
Mm.
to compensate for that. So I became a good boy. I became a bad boy. I became all these different things so that I could, get a response from people. So I could actually feel affection and feel kind of the attention of others. So personality structure is much more complicated. Essence is kind of like, you can think of it as like, if you hold God as a reality, it's like your divine qualities, the
Mm.
parts of the God self that you most easily express.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love the way you put that. That's really cool. Yeah, because it's sort of the things that if you strip away sort of the characteristics that developed as a result of pain and
Yeah, yeah.
alienation, you are result. What results is your divine essence
Mm,
for this life. Maybe we
mm,
can even call it your divine personality.
mm.
um,
I,
your
I'm comfortable with that word, but a lot of folks who
yeah.
today are try to leave the God language out. But
Yeah, yeah.
it's up to you, really.
Totally. Yeah. I don't apologize for that.
Yeah,
I feel like whatever we believe in and passionate about, there's enough people on the net who will who will
yeah,
resonate with us. So yeah, I don't
exactly,
yeah, totally.
exactly.
So just a quick shout out also to thank you, Anna, for joining us for this as well. And Linda, thank you as well. Okay, so about gifts a little bit, and please feel free, Brandon, if you want to speed things along, just let me know. I'm
Mm,
so interested in this stuff that I just kind of dig into
yeah.
the details a little bit. About gifts, one of the most common questions that people ask is, how do I know what my gifts are?
Mm,
Now,
mhm.
we could talk for days about this, but
Yeah,
maybe you can give us a few tips or a few little insights, whatever's coming to you now, on how you might sense that.
yeah, yeah. So, one of the kind of the common pitfalls about this step of conceiving our gifts is that oftentimes our critical mind is along for the ride here, and
Uh,
and they and the critical mind wants to make sure that we're not, um, you know, lying or speaking an untruth. And
mm.
so, if I was to say, one of my gifts is, scoring touchdowns for the Chicago Bears, my critical mind would be like, no, it's not. you know.
Right.
And so all of us have this throttle thing that says, okay, is that truthful? Yeah, yes or no. But what's important is that gifts actually, they don't come with an objective metric. It's not asking you to say, are you the best teacher in the world? It's
Ah.
asking you to say, do you enjoy teaching? And it's really, so we're really looking at it more from the lens of, this concept of flow, of being united with
Mm.
the activity, of feeling alive when you're doing it. Like,
Okay.
for example, I mean, I love preparing for a party. You know, I'm not the world's best, doer of chores. Like, I'm not the world's greatest sweeper, but I love that idea of like preparing a space for other people.
Hmm.
And so for me, like, I hold that as a gift. It's like,
Mm.
that's something I just, I feel unified. It makes me feel useful, and I enjoy it. But then there are some things that actually I do pretty well, at least that I get feedback on that I do well. like inspiring people,
Mhm.
public speaking, writing.
Yeah.
These are things that people are like, wow, you're actually kind of good at that.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that I only have to include the things that I get good feedback from others on. Like,
Mm.
I could be a terrible singer, but it could bring me joy, and I'm just going to claim it. Like, that's my gift. My gift is to sing, uh, in whatever way I choose to sing, even
Yeah.
though other people don't think so.
Uh-huh.
The beautiful part about gifts, and this is very resonant with this kind of concept of flow, is that they are generative,
Mm.
meaning that every time that you perform them, your gift actually gets more valuable. It gets better. Oftentimes, you actually get more get more mastery. You get just a new level of expertise every time you do them.
Mm.
So it's compared with things that are more gratifying. So if I go and eat a piece of pie, yeah, that was pleasurable. But if I eat the second piece, it's like, oh man, I really didn't need that second piece. If I eat that third piece, like, I really didn't need that third piece.
Right.
But whereas if it's for me, writing, like, every
Yeah.
time I write, I feel I'm getting better at it. I really enjoy it.
Ah,
It becomes this thing that, like, gets better and better and better and better.
yeah.
So a gift will have a generative quality to it.
That's beautiful. I love that. That's really cool. And I love that you said it's not just because when we think about, well, when I think about gift, the first thing I think about is, okay, well, what do I do that um, other people value, other people agree
Mhm.
that I'm good at? But you're adding to this what I love to do as well. And you're saying
Mm.
that, what I love to do in itself has value because I love doing it. It brings me alive.
Yes.
It's generative. But also, if I love doing something, even if people don't value it yet, but if I keep doing it, I'm bound to get
Yes,
good at it.
that's true. That is true.
Yeah,
That is true.
that's awesome.
Yeah, and like, that is the most important piece. Like, identify the things that are first a contribution to you. So,
Hmm.
like, playing the guitar. If you love playing the guitar, eventually you're going to get good at it. Somebody's going to hear you and be like, "Hey, did you play that guitar again?"
Sure. Yeah.
And then it becomes a contribution to others. But
Mm.
it's supposed to be initially a contribution to yourself. So,
Mm.
I'll give you a perfect counter example. Like, early in my career, I got really good at Microsoft Excel, and
Mm.
people really liked it when I did it. And I got paid a lot of money to do it. Same
Yeah.
thing with PowerPoint. But I didn't care about any of that stuff. Like, I wasn't like, hey, I'm feeling so alive because I created this beautiful financial model. So a gift. I mean, you've got to enjoy it. You've got to feel like,
Yeah.
wow, this is great. I'm having a lot of fun, or I'm feeling engaged or alive or unified first. That is the first piece. It's like, you've
Yeah.
got to like it.
Yeah. No, that's really great. And to not be in so much hurry that it generate money right away. I think that's
Yes,
part of it, right? It's like,
yes,
and
definitely.
I'm not saying you shouldn't do anything for money unless you love it. It's just that whatever you do love, make sure you are spending some time doing it so that
Mm,
one day it could become your livelihood or just simply bring you the color and the
mm,
flavor, the energy to your life that otherwise wouldn't be there.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, and that's a very, very common place I find people stuck in the purpose conversation, because they have a conception of what it is that they love to do, and they're like, oh, I can't make money on it, so I'm just going to sit here and suffer, or numb myself out with booze and media, or whatever it is. And what's important is that, just as you said, George, that we hold all those areas of life differently. And I'm gonna reference a kind of this is a framework that comes out of Hindu tantric philosophy called the Four Desires.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've got, out of each of these four desires, you have your purpose, your livelihood, your pleasure, and your spirituality.
Hmm.
And early in life, before purpose shows up, all of these areas kind of feel separate. There's some things that make you feel joyful. There's some things that you do to put a roof over your head. There are some things you do, um, to experience leisure, and there's some things you do to kind of connect or to transcend. But once purpose shows up, then that integration process begins. But it's important to not think that as soon as you find your purpose, then you have to, like, make a career change. You know,
Mm,
it's a gradual thing. You know, as you deepen your purpose, as you know, express more of your gifts, that kind of career shift will happen organically. And usually it happens in a very unique way.
mm.
People very rarely find their purpose and end up taking uh, and end up finding that the full expression of their purpose is to fulfill a 9 to 5 job. They usually have to create something brand new that allows them to live their life's purpose, and that takes time. It can be like a 3-year process, 5-year process for some
Wow.
people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's really helpful. Can you mention again what those four were?
Yeah,
Potential.
yeah. So it's dharma, which is purpose, basically.
Mhm.
There's artha, which is livelihood. There's kama, which is pleasure, and moksha, which is liberation or enlightenment or
Ah,
spirituality.
that's really
Um,
cool.
yeah, yeah,
And so you're saying that when purpose is becomes clarified, embodied, then those four are integrated.
yeah. Well, I would say that when purpose becomes clarified, that's when the integration process begins,
Begins, right? Okay.
and that final integration point, or you know, when it starts to when you start to get paid to be who you are, to do what you love, that can take, you know, 3 years, 5 years, that sort of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, definitely. It's taken me a couple years to get there.
Yeah, yeah.
um,
Amen.
yeah, and just a quick note from the live watchers. Thank you, Barbara, who just wrote that I'm enjoying the interview. I like Brandon's verbiage and the way he describes things in a down to earth way. I resonate with what Brandon is describing. So thank you, Barbara, for
Hmm,
that.
nice.
So let's go on. I feel like we've already spent half the time talking about barely step one here, and we've
Hmm.
got 4 steps to this whole thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So the purpose statement exercise. I'll just say that those of you who download the blueprint, there is a link. There's a button, and I'll show you where the button is. Actually, those who are able to watch the video, there's a button in the blueprint within step one that if you click on this, um, actually it's not clickable here. I'll make sure to put the link to the 30-minute purpose statement exercise as part of the episode notes as well, because I went through that myself and I found it very helpful to come up
Nice.
with my purpose statement. Yeah. So anything else, Brandon? I'll just kind of assume that those who watch or listen to this are going to go through that exercise. Is there
Yeah, yeah.
anything you want to mention on that?
I do actually.
Okay.
So, George, you know, as part of the great feedback you gave me and the feedback we've received from other folks who have downloaded the blueprint and listened to the exercise, I actually wanted to be able to read the exercise. And so George, you know, you went out and just kind of transcribed it yourself, you know, or paid somebody
Yeah.
to do a transcription. So we proved that, and we're going to include that in version 2 of this. So if you sign up, download this, you'll get an email, say, hey, the new and improved version with the purpose discovery exercise is actually written out as well in the appendix.
Okay.
So I of course encourage you to listen to it, because that is I find that to be more conducive to writing it, but
Mm.
the written version will be there as well. The other piece is that we also launched a 20-minute free training on going deeper into that step one.
Mhm.
So we provided 4 kind of bonus exercises to really deepen and enhance your purpose statement. So
Yeah,
and
that's
and
awesome.
that'll be on the same page as just as
Okay.
downloading the blueprint.
Yeah. And just to let people know, when you put your email address and opt in to download the blueprint and future updates that Brandon and his team will be sending you, just so you know, like when I got the email, it came from
Mm,
Chris Kyle.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
if you see that name, you'll know that he's Brandon's partner in doing this. So, I had to rescue it from spam actually.
yeah,
So don't make sure it doesn't go to spam. Make sure you look at it and read it and get the updates. Okay, so let's go on to step 2 then. How shall we?
yeah, yeah. So yeah, so as we all know, no person is an island, and
Mhm.
just knowing your purpose statement is great, right? But in order to start to transform your life with it, you know, to begin that integration process that we just talked about, you've got to start to bring other people into it. And
Mm.
so before you start to take any action, before you start to think about, what this is even going to look like or who you're going
Mm.
to help with your purpose, it's important to build a support team. So the second step is build your purpose support team.
Wow.
And the idea is that, very similar to a gardener, you plant a sapling, you stake off an area around it, you weed it, you water it, you're constantly paying attention to it in the early stages, because your purpose needs a lot of attention, it needs a lot of care and support, so that it grows into fruition, so that in 2, 3, 4, 5 years you have fully transformed your life, and that purpose can kind of stand on its own, can weather the elements, can defend off predators, can just kind of be its own thing. But until that point, we've got to create the safe container, and that's where this purpose team comes in. So these are basically 5 people who support you unconditionally.
Mhm.
And so what does that mean? These are 5 people who aren't attached to you or your life looking a particular way. The only thing that they want for you is for you to live the biggest, most fulfilled, on fire life possible. So these are just people who are in your corner who, um, you know, oftentimes, especially our family of origin or partners or siblings, they can be critical of us. And so
Mhm.
if if you're thinking about including a critical voice in your purpose team exercise, I'd highly urge you to reconsider that, because the idea is like you just want people who are going to be supportive. People are going to hold the space, hold the container for you to do the rest of this purpose activation workbook, but also start to as you start to live it and communicate with them, they're going to give you feedback. They're going to extend their resources and network to help you live your life of purpose. So it's a really special team. It's like you're creating your inner circle, like folks who are just here to support you living purposefully.
Yeah, I've heard it. I don't know if this is the same thing, but I've heard that description of having a personal board of advisors.
Yes.
It's kind of like a company has a board of advisors to direct a board of directors. Sorry, board of advisors, board of directors. I'm sometimes confused about that, but they basically advise and direct the company to achieve its mission, right? And
Mm-hmm.
here
Yes.
with your 5 people, you're saying these are the people that will be helping you do that. Now, when I was looking through this document, I thought, so a couple questions I have for you, right? One is, can you just? I was thinking about, okay, well, who might I ask, and would they say yes, and how? What would be the commitment? So I was thinking, okay, what if I asked these 5 people to commit to 3 months, and maybe I even create a secret Facebook group for these
Mm.
5 people, call it George Cow Board of Advisors,
Mm.
and or George Cow Purpose Team or whatever, and just say, okay, 3 months, and all I ask is that you look at this forum 15 minutes, 30 minutes a week. That's what you're committing
Mm.
to. And
Mm.
of course, if they're willing to do that, I would be happy to do the same for them
Mm.
as well, and maybe either at the same time or some other later down the road. But what are your thoughts about how to ask, and
Yeah.
what the commitment would be?
Yeah. That's a great. I totally agree with having it be a time bound ask,
Hmm.
because oftentimes these are relationships that have other contexts around them. Like, so let's say you want to put your wife on your purpose team. You
Hmm.
know, she's not just on your purpose team; like she's also your wife, and
Hmm.
so you need to make the ask very specific. So say, honey, the next 3 months, what I would like you to do is um, you know, put a little 15-minute block in your calendar to stay on top of my purpose team discussion on Facebook. Or it could be, once a week for 15 minutes, I want to have an accountability discussion with you, because what I want to
Hmm.
do is I want to make stretches on my purpose project, which we'll get to at the end. And I just want someone to report the results. Did I do them? What was the result? What did I learn? What am I going to do differently? And someone to help me think about what next steps are.
Hmm.
So to make it like not intrusive, I mean, the important thing is that you start out with your why. You share with them your purpose statement. So like, listen, this is who I am. This is the transformation I'm committed to in my own life or in the world or in the environment. And what I would like, I have a very tiny ask, but what I would like is for you to support me in that. And here's what it looks like. It looks like 15 minutes a week for 3 months. And as soon as they get that, you're speaking truthfully and authentically, and that it's really not a big commitment for them, they're probably going to be really excited. They're going to be like, wow, that is really beautiful, George. Thank you for sharing that with me. I'm happy to support you. 15 minutes is totally doable. I'm happy to do more, whatever it is. But like, it's just that kind of old adage. If somebody's speaking truthfully from the heart, people just want to help you. I mean, that is just kind of the nature of how change happens.
That's awesome. Do you have any suggestions on where to look for these people? And so, like, when I was thinking about it, I'm like, okay, well, of course I could think of some local friends, but this doesn't have to be local, right? It could be like kindred spirits that you have connected with on Facebook. And in fact, I'll say that those of us who are followers of this podcast, this video channel, our highest work, we have a Facebook group with now just about 500 people in it who are brought together by the values of doing our highest work, figuring out what that is and doing it diligently and faithfully and compassionately in the world. So if you are looking for a potential purpose team, and you can feel free to ask, maybe comment underneath this episode and say, hey, I'm looking for people to interview for my purpose team, and maybe you can make it a mutual thing to say, hey, I'd love to serve on your purpose team. You can serve on mine for a few months and help each other out. But any other thoughts, Brandon, about whom to look for? How do we know it will be good for someone to be part of our team?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Or you've already said how do we know, but whom do we look for? Do you have any suggestions? Like,
like I would say the thing that you want most is, identify somebody who is already on purpose, somebody who like really knows the gift of what it's like to have and live their purpose. Because I mean, they're just going to be a much more creative, energetic champion for you. Whereas, say, somebody who's only kind of supportive of you but doesn't really know their purpose, it will do it because they sense that this is truthful and that this allows them to fulfill a tiny piece of their purpose by supporting you. That's fine too, but like somebody who really knows their purpose and knows the gift of what it means to be alive and in action doing something, really try to seek out those people. I'm sure everyone knows at least one or two folks who are like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Who are just on fire.
So what about, though, there are people we all know who we might not say that they're on purpose because maybe they themselves don't feel like they're on purpose. Maybe they're in a job they don't like, or they're in a relationship that's not ideal for them, or whatever. But maybe they're good at bouncing ideas with, maybe like they have a gift of seeing into other people's purpose and seeing into other people's situation. They themselves aren't so good at theirs. Is that okay too?
I think that sounds great. I love that.
Okay. Yeah, because I can imagine it's like, it's just sometimes, like for me, I ironically, I'm much better at critiquing other people's marketing than looking at my own. And so I always say that people become my clients despite my marketing. So people are too kind. So anyway, let's go on to the third piece of the puzzle, which is to connect your purpose to serving others. So tell us about that. People, of course, can read this, and those of you who are able to see the video, you're kind of seeing a table, a chart for how to think about these things. But maybe you could just give us quick overview, however you want to say it.
Yeah. So the idea is that I should say an important caveat here to purpose is that we're not talking about you needing to express the totality of your existence right now at this very moment. Only thing
to remind
that
us.
the purpose project does and the purpose statement does is get us closer. It's kind of asymptotic. So over time, we're just with each project, with each time we revisit our purpose statement, we're getting closer and closer and closer, kind of a deeper awareness of who we are and what we're about in the world. So purpose projects and connecting purpose to serving others. It's just a place to start. So what we want to do here is move our purpose statement into connecting with another group or a cause. So what this third step does, it allows you to list groups that you feel empathy with. So in the audio exercise from the first step, you're going to identify 10 things in the world that break your heart, 10 things that make you sad or angry. And that's going to be kind of the group or cause that you're going to look at. So you're going to look at all 10 of those groups or causes, and you're going to evaluate them based on how deeply you empathize with them. So like, how deep is the heartbreak? So for the examples that we give here, we give 3 examples. So war veterans, the obese, and the homeless. Like, how deeply do you care about their issues? So for me, I put 5 for war veterans and obese, and a 4 for, war veterans and homeless, and a 4 for obese, because that just reflects, my ability to empathize and relate with those groups.
Mm.
So that's the first way you evaluate that group or cause. The second way is the relevance of your gifts. So, you look at your gifts from your purpose statement. Say, are my gifts of service to this group? And so for the war veterans, my gifts are very high. It's a 5 out of 5. Obese, it's a 3, and homeless, it's a 1. So my gifts actually have a bigger impact, a bigger value to war veterans. And then the last area is relationships. So for each one of these groups or causes, you may have ties or connections to individuals in those groups or organizations that serve those groups.
Mm.
So, for example, I have no relationships with groups that serve the obese and homeless, but I do have relationships with groups that serve war veterans. So what I do is I tally up, my rankings for all of my empathy groups, and that will give me kind of a quick back of the envelope understanding of where I should focus my purpose. Okay, so for the time being, I'm going to create a purpose project now that is going to serve these war veterans, because war veterans kind of rank the highest in terms of my empathy, the relevance of my gifts, and my relationships.
That's really great. Can you give us an example what you mean by organization? I don't know if you can share how you are connected to war veterans, just so that we have a sense of how that works.
Yeah. So there's a number of great organizations that work with veterans. I'm connected with a men's group that specifically serves war veterans. So the Mankind Project, the same group that delivered this, does a lot of outreach with these groups, and we training with them.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's very helpful. Awesome. Now, the second part of this step is generating possible actions. So possible projects. You talk about purpose project. Now, when I was looking at this, I think this needs to be explained a little bit, especially the whole self-purpose group. But yeah, talk us through what this chart means.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. So given that we're looking at war veterans as our target group, so there's a number of things we could do to improve their lives, right? We could do one-on-one counseling. We could start a blog focusing on veterans issues. We could do PTSD workshops. We could do some job training. We could create communities. There's a gazillion things we could do. So you want to just start to brainstorm these ideas of project. What types of projects could you do with them? And then again, you want to start to evaluate them, evaluate these projects, these specific projects along these kind of 4 categories. So one is time and effort, meaning if something is going to take very little time, very little effort, you want to rank it highly. Whereas if it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of effort, you want to rank it low. Because the idea is not so much that you need to go ahead and transform this group immediately and for the rest of your life. The idea is to do something that you can get some more information on. Meaning, once you do your project, you want to be able to say, did this work for me? Did it use my gifts? Is it aligned with my purpose? Did it serve the group? That sort of thing. And so if you can do something quickly, like say volunteer at a one-day event with vets, that's generally a good thing. Whereas if you say you want to write a book on veterans issues, that could take you 3 years, and then you have to wait 3 years to figure out if this is really aligned with your purpose or not. So the idea is to do something quick. And so the time and effort column, you rank that on a 1 to 5, 5 being the highest, meaning lowest amount of time and effort. And then it's there's self, purpose, and group. So self is, would you feel served by engaging in that project on a scale of 1 to 5? Would it feel good to you? The next column is purpose. Is how closely aligned is it with your purpose statement? Is it moving the ball forward towards the goal in mind? Does it allow you to express your essence? Does it allow you to give away your gifts in a meaningful way?
Nice.
And then the last is, what is the transformation that this project is going to have on the group? Is it low or is it high? If it's high, then it's 5. And then you basically, you tally those up, and that tells you how to focus your efforts into a project. Like, what is the project that you're going to start with? And it doesn't mean that these other projects are bad. It just means you're going to start with this one.
Right.
And then after you complete it, maybe you jump down to the next one. Or maybe you redo this exercise entirely and pick a new group, or pick a new, rewrite your purpose statement. This is just a methodology to get started.
Yeah. So spend another 30 seconds talking about group. What do you mean by the group score here?
Yeah. So given our group is war veterans, is this valuable to the group? So if you spend 3 years writing a book, that could be really highly valuable to that group, assuming you're interviewing them and helping them see new possibilities and transformations. But if it's delivering, carrot cake to veterans, they like it. They like the carrot cake, but maybe it's not really getting at their core issues.
I see.
So
Okay.
maybe it's only a 1 or a 2 on the scale of 5.
Got it. Like here you have inspiring shirt, which is great.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is great,
Yeah.
but it's not compared to the ebook or to the one-on-one counseling.
Right. Bingo.
Yeah. So, okay. Awesome. So finally, let's touch for just a minute or two on step 4, creating a purpose project, putting it into action.
Yes, bingo. So from this list of projects, you want to list out your top 3 and just kind of flesh it out in greater detail, so that you could kind of see, what this project would look like, if you were to do it. And then from that list, you hold it up and you say, okay, which one of these feels like it is, which one had the highest score, which one feels most deeply aligned with my purpose, and then you just pick it. And like I said, this isn't like a total kind of critical thinking scientific exercise. This is just kind of intuitively feeling which one you want to start with. And then you list your top purpose project. You articulate what success looks like. And usually that's like completing it and learning something. And then you articulate the actions that are going to help you complete it. So steps 1 through 5, like what are the 5 things I need to do to get in action around that? And then you share this with your purpose, with your purpose support team, and they help you create a schedule and hold you accountable to delivering on those actions.
Yeah, that's awesome. Can you touch just for a minute on down here? It says next steps, resistance, feedback, new project. We could probably talk a lot about those things, but what do you mean by that? Those things?
Yeah, and this is also something that is going to be clarified more in the second edition, which will be up in the next day or so.
Nice.
The important piece is that after you finish there's actually two real important pieces. After you finish your purpose project, you want to get feedback and learning. So you want to interview all the people who are involved with it, ask them about their experience, get feedback from your purpose support team, and just kind of evaluate your own experience living purposefully over the course of the month or 2 months of your purpose project, and so that you can document your learning. Like, oh yeah, it felt good to do this. This was a pain in the butt, whatever it was. And then the next piece is, was there resistance? Were there things that didn't get done because you couldn't bring yourself to do them?
Mm.
And so resistance is a normal thing. It's not good or bad. It basically means that we're trying to do something new, and that part of our personality structure, our ego structure, is resisting us doing that. It's resisting us showing up purposefully.
Mm.
And that's where, coaching or training programs where your purpose support team can be helpful, is helping you work through those blocks, those obstacles, those resistance. Like, yeah, I need to write this email, but I'm scared. I can't. And the coach says, okay, well, let's look at that. Tell me more about that. What does it feel? What was the first time you felt that? Is this really just triggering an old wound kind of thing? Is there a way to reframe what it is that you have to do in the context of your purpose, in the context of what you care about in the world? So it's basically, resistance is like understanding where you're stuck and then getting support to get unstuck.
Nice. Okay. Awesome, man. This is exciting. I can imagine, a whole movement. I was just thinking, I'm thinking, okay, there's got to be a website, a movement. Like, how many people can we inspire to create and complete these purpose projects? And there'll be examples, and there'll be like a TED talk that you give. Like, I'm thinking of all this stuff now.
So George, can I mean, and you and I, we've had a number of these kind of like pinball machine moments where you and I are just bouncing off each other with inspiration.
Yeah.
This is our way. And I've got a whole project very much in line with kind of your Mentor 3 scale of a project. Like, how do we get the entire planet to complete a purpose statement?
Yeah, man.
And so maybe we can talk about that after the call, and maybe do another
That's awesome.
call.
Yeah, totally, man. I'm game for it. So, man, I realize our hour is coming to a close. I'm not. I don't have to go in 2 minutes or whatever. But I would love for you to talk about how people can work with you, because I know there are people listening to this right now who are saying, "This sounds incredible. I would love to work directly with Brandon on achieving this, realizing this." I know you've got 2 things available. You got one is the Man on Purpose project. Now, the irony is that most of the people watching the video are probably women from my audience, but then a lot of the people listening to the podcast are probably men. And so we kind of 2 demographics we're talking to here. Maybe tell us a little bit about the well, tell us 2 things, if you don't mind. Tell us, one, can people work with you to have you as their coach? What does that look like? And secondly, what is Man on Purpose project?
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. So as you mentioned, I am a coach. I work with people one-on-one and in groups. I also coach corporations and leadership teams on getting clear on their purpose and how that relates to their corporate purpose. So I live and breathe purpose 24/7 at every level of human endeavor. I really, really love it. I would say most of my work is one-on-one. And it lasts between 3 and 4 months. And we go through a series of exercises that are mostly based on Tim Kelly's True Purpose workbook, which I believe is the best in class kind of purpose discovery workbook, because it is based on the psychology of this model called internal family systems. So it's one thing to kind of do a purpose statement exercise. That's important. That's crucial. You get to understand your qualities, what you're good at, what you care about. But then to actually have the tools to live your purpose, to break up the resistance, to understand your ego and all of its different parts, that takes facilitated work. That you cannot do on your own, because the person asking the question is the ego, and the person in the way of you living your purpose is also the ego. So that's where a coach comes in and says, okay, well, we're going to do some exercises that are going to break your ego up into its most important parts, We've got each of us has got a critical voice, a skeptical voice, a wounded child, an image consultant, a risk manager, and we get to know all these different parts about who we are and how those parts started and what they care about and what role they're going to play in our life after we find purpose. So it's kind of like this psychological corporate takeover where
Mm.
the previously the ego was just kind of competing for voice and mind share, and now all of a sudden this voice of soul, this message of purpose comes in and becomes the CEO and whips into shape all the vice presidents and gets the critical, the critic doing its task, the skeptic doing its task, the image consultant doing its task, getting the wounded child and the risk manager to do their tasks, but not for their own good, for the good of the whole, which is your life,
Mm.
your soul, your purpose in the world. So
Mm.
that's generally what kind of purpose discovery looks like at its kind of most robust instantiation. I mean,
Mm.
like I said, I believe Tim Kelly's approach is the most robust, complete, successful end-to-end kind of coaching framework, and that's why I use it. I use stuff from other teachers as well, but Tim Kelly's is the stuff that I really think is the best out there.
Mhm. Awesome. And then tell us about the Man on Purpose program.
Yeah. So this document and there's a course called the Man on Purpose is all part of the Mankind Project, and Mankind Project is an international men's organization that
And
helps men.
sorry to interrupt. I have to say that you, as one-on-one coach, purpose coach, you work with men and women.
That's correct.
Okay,
Yeah,
so those of you who are gals, you could still work with Brandon.
that's
Let's do it,
correct. That's
on the
correct.
one-on-one basis, and you do it via Skype virtual, right?
Yeah, Skype, phone.
Okay,
Yeah,
awesome.
anywhere in the world I can coach you.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. And so those of you who are men or who know men, listen up to
Yes.
this Mankind Project. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I also I feel like women are have just as much to benefit from men kind of owning their shadows and living purposefully, because that is really what women want. I mean, women don't want men who are grown-up boys. What they want is a man who knows his purpose.
Mm.
I think it's just as relevant for men or for women as it is for men. But the Mankind Project is part of this larger movement in revolutionizing masculinity, moving it away from kind of the strong silent type thing, John Wayne,
Mm.
50s, evolving beyond the kind of sensitive new age guy stuff of the 70s and 80s, and really moving it into a place that is a both and. So it's having that strong warrior energy, knowing what you care about, what you'll protect, what you'll sacrifice for, saying no, setting boundaries, but also being very present to the lover energy, like really understanding that who you are in the world is a function of what you care about and what you love. And so that's what moves you into action to craft your purpose statement, to live with mission and integrity. So the Mankind Project is a very powerful vehicle for doing that, and it's an international organization that initiates men into this new way of being, and then has these weekly or bi-weekly support groups where men get to own more pieces of their shadow, places where they're sabotaging themselves, like their relationships and career, their health. They recommit to their purpose. They make stretches and are held accountable to those stretches, and they form this like tight community of men. So part of this organization, we said, one of the things we do really well is create these containers and get men in touch with their shadow. One of the things we haven't yet done perfectly is deepen men's relationship to their purpose. So 3 years ago, they started this effort called the Man on Purpose course, and it is a live 7-week course that occurs online. So there's calls, community groups, exercises, and mentors that move men into a deeper sense of their purpose, help them do a lot of that kind of psychological reordering that I just talked about, and then get them involved into a purpose project. And so that course starts in May. And if you download the blueprint, there'll be an opportunity for you to hear more about that course, whether it's for you or for a man you care about who wants to live in greater integrity, alignment, to be on fire with his passion and purpose, and to create a better world.
Awesome. Awesome, man. That is great. That's great. Um, I just a shout out to one of our commenters, Anna, who has already offered herself to be a purpose team advisor to anyone who's interested. She says, I'm a natural born idea bouncing board. I'm supportive, inquisitive, creative. I have a wide range of business experience, honesty, generosity, and offer to myself to be part of your purpose team if anyone's interested. So that's awesome, Anna. Thank you so much for leading the way. Those of you who have been inspired by this episode, please feel free to comment underneath on our Facebook thread if you want to also be part of someone's purpose team, or you're looking for someone to be part of yours. Brandon, it's been great to hang out with you here. Thank you so much for taking your time and energy and sharing this blueprint with us. I know that a lot of people are going to benefit from this. Everyone who's listening, please, you might want to listen to this again, because I'm sure you'll get something, you'll get the nuances that you didn't get the first time. And most importantly, implement, do the exercise, and let us know. Brandon is also in our Highest Work Facebook group. So let us know by commenting on this thread, your questions, your results, your celebrations, your challenges. I would personally love to see that. So Brandon, is there anything else you want to share before we adjourn this call?
Yeah. So if you haven't downloaded the blueprint, go to purposeactivationblueprint.com. And
Nice.
If you want to learn more about me and my purpose work, go to everone.co. That's EVR1, the number one, .co.
Yeah, EVR and then the number one.co. Okay.
Right.
Awesome, man. So with that, let me end the episode. I always love reminding you that you are taken care of by forces greater than yourself. The destiny of your soul and consciousness is secure. You're going to a place of bliss and perfect creativity and complete fulfillment. So until the next episode, keep your heart open, and continue doing your highest work diligently and always with compassion. Be well, everyone.